This is the Marketing Pulpit TV show. I am Robert Gatewood, your host. And if it affects my stakeholders, it affects me. Over at Amazon, the bots are doing the firing. Man, they got a bot for everything now. If you have built your business model on one-off sales, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. They don't have a better product than you. They just have better marketing. Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to the Marketing Pulpit TV show. I'm Robert Gatewood, your host, and we are here every Friday at 10:30 a.m. bringing you the good marketing gospel. Now, today we're sharing highlights from past shows. So grab a seat, get comfortable, and we'll be back next week live right here on the Marketing Pulpit TV show. Enjoy. That's one thing about a business. It's an equalizer. It's a game changer. You don't have to hit the lottery. If you have a skill, have the right mindset, have a mission, you got to have some money, you can start a successful business. And that's why people come to me to help them navigate. We are a business development and marketing company. I've been doing this now for 25 years as an entrepreneur, and I spent another 20 years or so in corporate America. Worked for companies like Diet to Go. I was a vice president of marketing and business development, senior vice president. I was also a buyer for brand new supermarkets. I was president and CEO of Telegrocery, one of the first home delivery supermarkets in the country. I know a little bit about this stuff, and I'm willing to share it every Friday right here on the Marketing Pulpit, 10:30 a.m. Small business owners, we are a precious lot. But what we have to do collectively, if we're going to put some type of dent in this failure rate, we have to think like the successful companies. We have to see beyond the shiny objects. We have to look beyond next week and just making next week's payroll. We have to look at these issues like supply chain management. We have to look at marketing as not just a way to get the next sale, but the way to build a solid foundation for your business. That's what separates the Marketing Pulpit from all these other shows. And I'm not knocking them. They have a very vital role. If their role is to get sales in the door, then I say more power to them. If their show is about getting you more likes on your Facebook, I say that's important, more power to them. But what the Marketing Pulpit is about is strategy, how to take these resources, how to take these vehicles, how to take these channels and turn them into a strategic plan that builds a solid foundation for your business so that you can be sustained for years to come, so that you can pass this business on to the next generation. We're not talking about tomorrow or next week. We're talking about legacy building. And that's what the Marketing Pulpit is about. And I'm glad you could join me today. And I want you to come back and I want you to share this information with others, because we have a crisis in our community. In spite of all the opportunity out here, we're still failing at an unacceptable rate. It's my mission, my cause célèbre, my raison d'etre, my reason for being, is to make sure that doesn't happen. Thank you again for tuning in to the Marketing Pulpit TV show. I'm Robert Gatewood, your host, and I'm here every Friday at 10:30 a.m. I bring you the good marketing gospel. We're not saving souls over here. We're saving businesses. We're saving jobs. We're trying to save our community. And if you ever find yourself at a business crossroads and not sure which way to turn, it's simple. Turn on the Marketing Pulpit TV show. We're on a mission. Our goal is to help you get there successfully. Yeah, people start businesses all the time. But the key is not to start a business, it's to succeed in business. Now, what we're seeing right now, many people have decided that due to COVID, due to the lockdown, some of worlds have been changed forever. And many have seen this as an opportunity to stick their toe in the entrepreneurial waters. Some have got some STEMI money, PPP money, EIDL money, or some family member got it. And they say, look, we've never seen this kind of money before. So what are we going to do? We're going to go start a business. Now, under normal circumstances, I would say, great. That's exactly what you should do. But we're seeing such numbers now. It's happening in such volume that I think I got to put the governor on. I got to have one foot on the brake for a minute. And I don't want you to be hasty, because yes, the key is not to start a business. That's not the hard part. The challenge comes in when you're trying to succeed in business. That's right. Why do you want to start a business in the first place? I mean, besides COVID-19, so look, I'm not going back in there. Shoot, not going to have me beating up, getting shot over an old mask. I'm not going back in that airline. Somebody gouge my eyes out and knock out my 2 front teeth. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. This is not it. Well, yes, there is a better way. But don't think this business thing is a cakewalk either. You're gonna deal with some of those same issues that your employers, some of these folks you're running from. Look, sometimes you jump out of the frying pan into the fire, because it's not a cakewalk. But the benefits are so enticing. Prestige. And let me tell you something. Many friends who didn't get that medical degree, didn't get that law degree, didn't get that engineering degree, they can go out here and get that prestige by putting business owner behind their name. Entrepreneur. CEO. Yep, you can stick that chest out. Money. You play the cards right, you can do pretty darn good as a business owner. All that money you've been making for somebody else, they're paying you like $20 an hour, $25 an hour, but they get like $200 an hour through billable hours. Now, you're not going to keep all of that, but you can keep more of it. Independence. Oh, my God. Now, let me tell you something. It's not that you're going to start sleeping to 12 anymore in the morning, but it's something about it to know that you could sleep to 12 if you wanted to. That gets you up. I got up this morning at 6 o'clock. If I was going to a job, man, I slept right up until the very moment that I had to be get up. But yeah, I'm coming because I want to. It's my company. Flexibility, great. Tax write-offs. You can hire your family members. I told my daughter she doesn't need it because, and she could hire me in a few days. But I told her since she was young, you would never have to worry about getting a job. You may not be the job you want or your dream job, but I will always have a job for you. Man, there's something about that is just so liberating. We don't have to take our kids to other folks' communities to get jobs. Heck, they're hiring their kids. We should hire ours too. And of course, legacy. Those are just great reasons to go out and start a business. Now, like I said earlier, I've been back and forth about whether you should, whether you shouldn't. Should everybody start a business? Well, I used to say everybody should. Then I realized everybody wasn't ready. Some folks just shouldn't be in business, period. Or at least they shouldn't be in the business that they got into. But then I realized this is what experience does for you. It's more nuanced than that. Because businesses fall in certain categories. They're not all created equally. If I was saying that everybody's got to go out here and start a business where you got to hire people and get up at 6 in the morning and work to midnight, and I would say no, everybody's, but they're not. All businesses are not that way. I mean, these are Robert Gatewood's classifications of the different types of businesses that you might get into that makes it more nuanced. That makes me go back and say, yes, everybody should start a business because you have these different classifications. The first one is the part-time side hustle. That's available to practically everybody. Vending, resellers, influencers, internet businesses, everybody can do that. Has a low threshold, and yes, that would make you a business owner. Now you got to talk to the IRS about whether it's a job or a hobby, but there are certain kind of qualifications. So, but yes, that's like the low-hanging fruit of business ownership. Then you have the out-of-the-box turnkey franchises, biz ops. It's pretty easy too, because you don't have to, one, you don't have to be a specialist in that particular field. And you don't have to do that long learning curve and trying to reach critical mass and break even, because all that has been taken care of in most cases. So yeah, you might be able to do that, whether you have business experience or not. That's what I'm saying. It's more nuanced now than just say it. Either you're a business, you have what it takes to own a business or not. Then we get down to the what I call the breadwinner, job replacement kind of businesses. And that's what a lot of people, when we talk about business ownership, that's what most people are focusing. They're not looking at the other categories. That means you've left your 9-to-5 job. You're depending on this job to pay your expenses, your mortgage, your car, your kids' education, your food. The threshold is a lot higher. Those are your professionals, like your attorneys, your dentists, people like myself, service operators, plumbers, lawn care operators, cleaning services. They put it on the line. Now, one thing about that type of business, you don't just become these overnight. If that is you, and you know who I am, I bet you've been doing this for a minute. You may have started out with one of these side hustles, but if you're successful in business right now, if you're an attorney, if you're a plumber, if you're a marketing guy, you've been in it for a minute. And that's where people kind of use that broad brush when they say you get into a business. Yeah, there are other ways to get into a business. Like I said, it doesn't have to be full time. It could be a side hustle. It could be just another string of income. Vending machine, reseller, internet store, who knows what. But then you have the turnkey, like franchise. Then you have what I call the breadwinner, replace your job. Then there's another group, what I call scale to sell. They don't want to do any hard work. They want to start this thing out, get some VC money, and go off and live in the Bahamas or Cook Island. They have no plans to be getting their fingernails dirty in a daggone business. And we see that with a lot of these, like I say, these companies that go and get the IPOs and Uber, people like that. They just have a whole different model. I've dealt with some of those as well. I had a young lady who was doing hair. She took hair to the tech field. Her business plan was not to get in that business and get her hand dirty. Her business was get that VC money, do a we call no interest loan with a balloon payment after 5 years, sell that sucker for, make a few $1 million, off to the next venture. So yes, there are different types of businesses, but yes, it's an option that's available to all. Now, the thing about it though, you want to succeed. Why do they go belly up? I'm gonna give you some reasons, which also makes you want to think about, don't be hasty with this decision of yours. One of the number one reasons is lack of funding. People don't realize how much money it takes to make a business. You better get that money from somewhere. You can bootstrap, get a loan. Don't rob a bank. That's off the table. But you got to get that money. You got to fund it. Another problem is they don't do enough marketing. I know it sounds like a little self-serving, right? But that's the truth. That's the number one reason. Sometimes you get into a business, the market is already saturated. Just too many people doing it already. I don't care how much you love it. If everybody else is doing it and you're not doing if you're not creating barriers to entry or being a differentiator, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to make it. Speaking of barriers to entry, that's another reason businesses fail too. Those barriers to entry are preventing you from being successful. Like you're dealing against some well-heated advertisers. Folks have deep pockets. They're just going to market you under the table every time. There's regulation, there's compliance issues you didn't know about, so you got into it. You realize a little too late sometimes because you were moving on emotion. You didn't have the facts. Sometimes there's other people controlling the resources. You get into an industry where you can't get the supplies you need. Nobody told you about that. There are relationship issues. You got to have relationships in business. If you don't have those relationships, hard work alone is not going to make it for you. I'm sorry. You can't do it. And many small businesses, because of some of these other issues, They don't have the relationship, the funding, the resources. They give poor service. If you have poor service, you're not going to get the lifetime value, recurring businesses, upselling, cross-selling, referrals that's necessary to get the lifetime value to succeed. So those are the reasons that businesses fail. And failure can be devastating. You just don't brush that off as, well, I tried it. Now, I'm not saying when you fail, you need to, go jump off a bridge, but I'm saying if you can avoid it, that's what I'm saying. Let's not be hasty here. Everybody's jumping up now to go start a business. I want you to know what you're up against. Going out of business, it has a financial toll. I've had many people come to me over the years, and I want you to listen, and anybody who's about to do this, you tell them to think twice and think hard. If you're about to start a restaurant, for instance, man, anybody come to my business asking Gatewood Marketing to help them start a restaurant, I need to see some financials. So the chances of making it as a restaurant is one of the highest failure rates of any type of business out here. The barrier to entry is very high. So if you're thinking about it, or if you know somebody thinking about it, you better tell them to talk to somebody. The financial toll can be devastating. And not succeeding in business has an emotional toll as well. You just can't shake that off tomorrow. I mean, it affects your psyche. You take it personal in some cases. You start feeling like a failure. So don't take this thing lightly. It can ruin relationships. Because sometimes those stakeholders, the people that believed in you to help you get that business going, now you've disappointed them as well. You've lost family members sometimes. You're losing friends who you let down. Sometimes you're harder on yourself than they are. But it can be devastating on some of your relationships. And your reputation. Before you started that business, you could have been like the pillar of society. Hey, Robert Gateway, man, that guy was, everybody liked him. Everybody thought he was the Mr. Big Stuff. Now you got this bad business experience on your brand, and your reputation takes a hit. I'm not saying don't do it. I want you to know what you're up against. Now, let's say I can't talk you out of it. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to enlighten you to let you know this is not an easy road, okay? These are things I want you to do. It's a little test to let me know if you're ready to do this. Do you have the right mindset? Do you understand you can't live the same life after you start a business? I'm telling you, you have to have a different mindset towards money, relationships, people. Almost everything you touch has to go through a different prism. The mindset has to be right. Because there are times that money alone is not going to get you through those tough days and weeks. You have to have the right mindset. Tie it to a mission and a purpose. I mean, money is good, but money alone is not going to get you there. You have to tie this to some type of greater calling. So if you're one of those folks, you COVID folks who say, look, hey, I'm not going back to work. I'm going to start a business. You need to take this advice. Have the right mindset, tied to some type of mission or greater calling. Look at the society's needs. What do we need as a society? What are some of the wants, shortcomings, problems? Solve those. You don't have to go out here and create a need. Because now you got to start that whole industry life cycle over. And you're not going to make any money in that first 2 quarters of it. Look at the needs that already exist. Make sure you have some money. Now, this makes most people pause. You think about, you may lose your money. You may lose your house. You may ruin your reputation. But you better have some money. Because some of this other stuff you can brush over. You go home and tell that husband, that wife, that family that you just wasted the kids' college education fund on this idea you had. You better have some money that's tied to something other than something you got to live on. And last, this is where people like myself come in. You have got to market that business. There's an old saying, fortune favors the bold. This was one of those tricks, secret sauces of marketing that I learned. I was so glad I learned it. One of the biggest expenses on my income statement is advertising and marketing, because I know other companies are not going to do it. I mean, this is easy, folks. I know you don't believe how easy this is. I'm just giving you the answer to the test. Your competitors are not going to do it. They're just simply not going to do it. For one, they're not listening to this show. They're going to be doing everything they can to try to make this business work, but they're not going to invest what it takes in marketing, advertising, and promotion. And I'm going to tell you why they don't do it, because they're not sure they're going to get a return on that investment. And that's why they come to people like me. Because once you decide that you have the right market, you're in the right place, you're at the right time, and you're doing it right, your wallet will flow open. And that money is going to go out and it's going to come back. And your competition is going to be wondering what happened. They're not going to know what hit them. So yes, in closing, I do want you to start that business. But I want you to make sure you're making the right move. You might start out of a side business. Just do some residual income, some multiple streams. You might not have what it takes to start a business from scratch and take it up to 20 years like myself and Bradley and Mr. Brown and Thorman Jerry and BLE, people like that. You might just want to buy a franchise. You may have been in this for a long time. You just need some help to get you to that point of critical mass, break even. That's why you find a person like myself to help you along. You may be one of these folks that just need some venture capital money. You got an idea, an invention, go out here and get you a public, take you to an IPO, get you a short-term, interest-only loan, scale it and sell it. It depends. But yes, starting a business can be great. The prestige, the money, independence, flexibility, one of the best things that ever happened. But don't be hasty about it. Talk to somebody. Doesn't have to be me. Just talk to somebody. Folks, that's going to wrap up the show. I hope you're enjoying the show, and thank you for tuning in. You can go to marketingpulpit.com and look at all of our past shows in their entirety right there on the homepage at marketingpulpit.com. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also go to Facebook, go to YouTube, go to Instagram, go to Twitter, and sign up and get on our list. Love to have you to follow us, and we'll be sharing information about upcoming shows, guests from the past shows, and a plethora of great information. Thank you for tuning in. Just go to marketingpulpit.com, and we'll see you soon. But anyway, we're going to talk about sales today. So I'm going to give you 10 tips. And some include some of the basic things that we talked about in sales, like closing and objections and benefits and all that good stuff. But I want to put a little strategy behind it. Now, the first thing I want you to do is, because what we want to do is to make this sales process not look like we're trying to sell people, because people are going to turn off the minute they feel like they're being sold. It's just human nature. So what you have to do is to make this process, and not just to make it that, or make it seem that way, it should be that, in fact, a servicing operation. You're providing a service. So when somebody asks me, are you selling me? No, I'm not selling you something. I'm providing a needed service. Well, how do I know it's a needed service? Because number one rule is you want to make them or encourage them to initiate the contact. There you go, folks. Now that's how this ball gets to rolling in the right direction. If you can get them to initiate the contact, man, you have been given a carte blanche. You can bug them the rest of your life. Hey, you called me. That's exactly right. You want them to contact you first. And that just changes that's a game changer. If you're sitting there going through the phone book and hitting people up in the elevators and chasing people down the street, it's going to be a much longer road to hoe. But if they contact you, man, I'm telling you, it opens up the universe. Now, how do you do that? By effective marketing and advertising. So the reality is that the sales starts before the sales process. Like anything else in marketing, it does not exist in a vacuum. You have to be constantly putting out your features and your benefits of your products and your sales. You have to engage in good marketing, effective advertising, making sure you're on the right platforms, making sure you're using the right code words and emotional hot buttons, all that good stuff, and let people contact you. Now, that's not going to always be the case, but I'm telling you, that's the best place to start. Now, another thing you want to do in this strategy, you got to lower the threshold to make it easier for people to interact with you. In other words, don't say, look, hey, you got to come down to my office, or I got to come to see you, or I got to thump through all these hoops. Man, let's make it easy. Let's tell people, look, you can Zoom. I had somebody call me yesterday. I think this lady was in Baltimore or something. She's trying to decide when she's in the DC area. And when I'm up there, I have to look, hey, man, we don't have to do this. Let's do Zoom. How about that? I blame it on the COVID. Man, I got that appointment. We're talking on Monday. So lower the threshold. Don't make people jump through all these hoops. I know you got a nice office. You want people to come see it, and you're tired of being locked down, and you want to have that interaction, but let's make it easy. You can be Zoom, you can do a telephone call, but let's lower the threshold to get that initial interaction. Now, this is something I want you to do. I'm going to put this up here early because we're going to talk about it more in depth at the end. But start using trial closing the minute you interact with that person. Now, what's the difference between a trial close and a close? Well, it's the same thing. You're trying to get the sale, but you don't want to jump out the gate saying, hey, look, ready to start? Let's go. You don't do that ever. Well, the trial close is kind of like testing the water in case that person is ready to go right now. And some of them are, but you don't usually know that if you don't do the trial close. So the trial close might be something like, how soon you want to get that? How soon you want that website? That's a trial close, whether you know it or not. You're just curious. But because they might say, look, hey, I need this. I need like yesterday. Man, you can forget all this other stuff. You go straight for the jugular from there. You get out your order form and start writing. That's why you do trial closes. And you can do it at any point in this process. You don't have to wait till the end, which is a mistake many people take. They follow these sales books, like benefit selling, handle objections, and then close. No. Do those trial balloons every time you interact with that person. Find some way to ask for that sale. Now, something else I want you to do. You got to paint that picture. Now, what do I mean? I don't mean become Picasso or Pablo or some artist. Have you done the overdue recognition art gallery over there in Bowie? Great people over there, by the way. But when I say paint the picture, you got to make that customer see themselves riding in that new car. It's like, man, it's really going to be nice. You had that new AC, hot as it is outside. That's called painting the picture. It's like, man, I know you're going to be tired of folks asking you where's your website, right? Yeah, they like, damn, you know, you're right. We call that painting the picture. You putting them into the driver's seat before they actually have the key. They start seeing themselves. That is so effective. So you want to do that. You want to inject that in the process as well. Now, if you have to send somebody some information, which may happen, sometimes, like I said, if you've done your trial balloon and they haven't not ready to sign up, you want to make sure that information has some information that has some, that package you send them is moving that process along. You want to add some things like some testimonials, generate that social proof, talk about how other folks are doing it and how they're going to be out there all by themselves if you're not doing it. And then also you want to get and start looking for those objections as they pop up. Now, the thing about objections, I know, like I said, people have in the sales field, sometimes they do this stuff by the book. They got this hierarchy of things. But I take a different approach to objections. I say, why wait for them? Folks, we know what the objections are going to be. You know, I mean, if you've been selling this product for 100 years, 20 years, 10 years, you know exactly what the objections are. Why wait? And another reason you don't want to wait, because many of the objections are what we call hidden objections. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to say, look, hey, that costs too much. They're going to say, hey, let me go home and talk to my wife. Oh, well, let me think about it. They're going to give you everything except the real objection. So instead of waiting, I like to take the proactive approach. Let's get the objections out of the way from the get-go. I will start talking about price. Well, look now. Now we just had matter of fact, we just had a price increase last week, but I think we're not going to. I think I can get you in at this original price. Two things happened. We addressed an objection, and we did a trial close. Right there in this one sentence. These are strategic things, ladies and gentlemen, that it doesn't look like you selling somebody. So let's get these objections out of the way. Like I say, once again, let's get those testimonies in front of them too. Somehow you got to get that person to see that you have been doing this for a minute. Social proof should be included in practically every aspect of sales and advertising. And that simply means that others are doing it, and that person should be doing it too. And with you. You go to my website, it's just one big page of testimonials. And because I understand the power of social proof, so you want to inject that into your sales process every chance you get. You could be on the phone, matter of fact, that person on the phone, and your phone could ring, your cell phone could ring. It's, oh yeah, that was that client working on their website. I just want to just make sure I got there. They want to start next week. I just want to make sure that. So hold on a second. You just dropped in some social proof. That's strategy, ladies and gentlemen, and it's honest, and it's not giving you that salesy, hungry look, but it's very effective. Very effective. Now, what you want to do also, you want to do what we call risk aversion. Make it less risky to do business with you. I mean, sometimes you're dealing with folks never heard you. They wouldn't know you from Jack. What's this Gatewood guy talking about? He's going to build my brand and get me some customers and write my marketing strategy. Well, I'm going to try to do everything I can to make it sound a little less risky to do business with me. So on my website, I'm going to put things like my cage code. That means Uncle Sam at least done check me out. You can't get a cage code if you got to have at least a DUNS number and a business license or something. So you do things that reduce the risk of doing business with you. If you're a member of the Better Business Administration, put that banner out there. Anything that you can do to help people feel comfortable and feeling like it's less risky doing business with you than the next person. These are all sales techniques, folks, that are very, very effective, and it's very strategic. Now, not the last thing, because this process never ends, to be honest with you. But one of the things that we talked about is the close. That's asking for the sale. You have not sold until you get the sale, and you have to ask for it. Now, unfortunately, many people who don't understand sales, they actually ask. They get the door slammed in their face. You don't really just go up there and ask, hey, can I have this sale? No, that's not how you do it. I'm going to tell you my favorite one, and it's so effective. I'm going to let you into one of my secret sauces of Gatewood success. We call it the forced close. Give them two choices. Either one of them is acceptable to you. Man, let me tell you, the minute you master this, you're going to see some changes, and you're going to start seeing some pay dirt happening. That's right. Do you want me to deliver this, or are you going to come pick it up? Are you going to use your Cash App today or your PayPal? Can we set this appointment for Wednesday at 3 or Monday at 2? Do you want the automatic transmission or the manual? That's called a forced close. I'm going to tell you why it's so effective. it also goes back to that painting that picture. That person says, look, I can't do an automatic. Last time I tried that, I ran over my neighbor's cat. I can see myself in that automatic. All I got to do is turn the engine and go. You say something like Cash App or Venmo, they'll say to themselves, oh, yeah, I have Cash App. And they're just eager to use it. I went to play golf the other day. And I got up to the counter. I was about to try to buy my credit card out. The lady said, look, we don't take credit cards. We take Cash App. I'm like, hey, okay. I mean, I hadn't even decided whether I was going to buy those basketballs. I was still in the deciding process because I never played that before. But when she said Cash App, I said, hey, I reached in my pocket, put out my little green, the Cash App thing, and I was good to go. I didn't realize, after I got my little bucket of balls, man, she did pull a forced close on me. I'm out there hitting golf balls on. This stuff works, ladies and gentlemen. And the last but not least, we have to do follow-up. Follow-up is pivotal. Follow-up is pivotal. And good morning, Brother Bradley. You've got to do the follow-up. I'm going to tell you why follow-up is so important. First of all, buyer's remorse. Buyer's remorse is real. It's real, ladies and gentlemen. Usually in most states, you have 72 hours to change your mind. And so you better do everything you can within that 72-hour window to make sure that person doesn't go home and change their mind. And not because you did anything, didn't put a fast one on them, but people just, human nature is that way. They get home and they start thinking about it. And say, well, you know what? I probably could have waited a little while. But the way to alleviate that or to abate it is to do that follow-up. I mean, every day within that 72-hour window, I'll be sending them something. Say, hey, look, we got your onboarding form. Thank you. All right, I'm going to send you a worksheet tomorrow. I want you to fill it out and send it back to me. I'm just checking on you to make sure that sheet is filled out correctly. We're going to fight that buyer's remorse. And I would say, once you get that sale, and if you like in a situation where you're doing like some type of professional services, like legal or accounting, marketing, stay in touch with that person a couple of times a week until that project is completed. Just touch base. Because silence is not golden when it comes to sales and service. So anyway, folks, that's my sermon for today. Sales is strategic. It's not about twisting somebody's arm, making them do something or buy something that they didn't want, because that's going to come back to hurt you. What you want to do is stop looking at it as you're selling or convincing someone to do something, but call it for what it really is. You're providing a much needed service. And it's even better if you do your marketing and advertising correctly and they contact you, because let me tell you, that makes a world of difference. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining. Well, I hope you're enjoying the show. This is the Marketing Pulpit TV show, and we are sharing highlights from past shows. So continue to enjoy, and we'll be back next week. Big banks are flying high. They're making money hand over fist. Boy, Bank of America profits rose 58% to $7.7 billion. I'm not counting anybody's money. I'm not player hating. But the problem I have with this is that these banks are still charging almost $40 on an overdraft. It can be as small as $1. These banks need to go back and revisit some of these policies. I'm just telling you. This is wrong. And then you're going to be boasting about $7.7 billion in earnings. I'm being oversensitive. That's a problem. And it's not just the overdraft fees. There are other policies. You're closing teller windows. You're forcing people through drive-thrus. And let me quit. Good thing I don't have any banks as sponsors. That's why it's good to be independent, ladies and gentlemen. You can talk. You can say what's on your mind. This morning I was thinking about habits. We all have them. Question is, are your habits harmful or are they helpful? Think about that. What is a habit, first of all? A habit is a dominant disposition or prevailing character trait. It's a usual way of behaving, something that a person does on a regular and a repeated way. That's a habit. Just because it's a habit doesn't mean that you are committed to it forever. And just because it's not a habit now doesn't mean it can't become one. Now, the reason I say this is because sometimes we get into these habits at an early age when we are under the influence of others. And we incorrectly assume that that's the way it always has to be. But nothing could be further from the truth. Big banks are flying high. They're making money hand over fist. Boy, Bank of America profits rose 58% to $7.7 billion. I'm not counting anybody's money. I'm not player hating. But the problem I have with this is that these banks are still charging almost $40 on an overdraft that can be as small as $1. These banks need to go back and revisit some of these policies. I'm just telling you. This is wrong. And then you're going to be boasting about $7.7 billion in earnings. I'm being oversensitive. That's a problem. And it's not just the overdraft fees. There are other policies. You're closing teller windows. You're forcing people through drive-thrus. And let me quit. Good thing I don't have any banks as sponsors. That's why it's good to be independent, ladies and gentlemen. You can talk. You can say what's on your mind. Barriers to entry. There are certain things that are keeping certain companies out of business and protecting those that are already in business. We call those barriers to entry. And one of the things you want to do as a business owner is to create barriers of entry so that you're in a position where not every little Tom, Dick, and Harry can come along and do what you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about, we're talking about, put that scenario in front of you. If you have money in the stock market or some other form of equity, should you continue to invest in that, or should you put that money in your business? Now, I'm not going to say I'm not a financial advisor, but there's certain things that are foundational to funding and money that you don't have to be an expert to know. Just like I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you that you should have a will. So there's certain things that I can say if it were me, this is what I would do. So let's talk about funding for a minute, because when I started my company several years ago, funding was an issue. I didn't have any money to start a business. I mean, I had some money, but I didn't realize until I started digging around that I had money that I didn't know I had. You don't have to have a basket of money somewhere buried out in the yard to have money, because you can get that money from other sources. So first, let's answer that question we asked about earlier. Should I put that money in the stock market or should I put it in my business? Well, first of all, those two are not mutually exclusive. You can actually do both, but you probably should do them in the right order. Let's say if you have that money in the stock market, you can actually do what we call, you can get a margin loan. And a margin loan is that you can leverage that stock, the value of that stock, up to 50% and get a really low interest rate loan. Let's say if you have $20,000 in the stock market, you can actually go to your broker and say, look, I want to take out $10,000 loan against that. And many people don't realize that. They think they have to sell it. They think they have to sit on it, or they have to go get money from a different source. Now, of course, you have to be aware of something called a margin call. And that means if the value of that asset reduces below a certain level, they can either force you to sell off some of additional stock or put some more money in the account so you don't fall below a certain amount. Now, of course, margin loan is one way to get money. So you don't have to sell that stock if you need money to start your business. But there are other ways. You may have other assets that you can use if you're talking about some type of secured loan, like a HELOC, or we call it a home equity line of credit. You can use the equity in your house. Some people, once again, we did a series of workshops with a company a few years ago, and that was really what they focused on, ownership, the value of owning a house and a property. And one of those things that we used to punch very hard is that you don't have to sell that property. You can have any asset. This is what the rich people do. They don't sell their assets. They leverage them. They hang on to the assets and use those assets to get the money they need. The old saying, use other people's money and hang on to your own. So those are two of the ways that we can fund our businesses. And it takes that question into a different direction. Do I have to do I invest in stock, or do I invest in my business? You can actually do both. Let's talk about some other ways to get money for your business. Now, like I said, I've probably done most of the ones on this list because I've had several businesses, and also as a business consultant, I've had to work with companies and individuals and even refer them to financial advisors to help them navigate these waters. One of the oldest ways is bootstrapping. Just use the money from your regular job and put it back into the business. You got another job over here, you're starting your business over here, take that money and just keep funneling it in. And that was one of the ways also that I used when I was first getting started. I never just quit my job because I decided to start a business. Some people make that rookie mistake. They say, look, the only way I'm going to do this, I've got to cut the apron strings. I'm not sure about that. You got to time it, ladies and gentlemen. You got to think that thing through. There is a right time to walk away, but it's good if you have that source of revenue that you can funnel into your business. You can get a credit line through corporate credit cards. Now, there's corporate credit cards and there's personal credit cards. Corporate credit cards are usually in your company's name, and they have different rules and regulations. Then you have your personal credit cards. Once again, one of my first businesses, which was a payphone business, I financed it through personal credit cards. I didn't get credit back then before I got into business. Things can change quickly once you become a business owner. But anyway, I had this perfect credit when I got about $20,000 in credit cards. It took about 5 credit cards to do it, but I bought my payphone business. And I use personal credit cards. Now, if you say you're already in business and you're collecting revenues on a regular basis, if you're using PayPal or Square, they have what we call working capital. And usually they base it on some kind of formula based on how much money you collected, and of course how long, if you're paying your bills on time. You can actually do they would actually give you a line of credit. I mean, the day I figured that out, man, I thought I had hit the lottery. PayPal sent me a little note, say, hey, buddy, need $3,000? I'm like, me? Man, I was poor as Tom's turkey at the time, but I had regular revenue coming in. So you can look at some of those options, and they'll usually let you know. If not, call them, let them, ask them. You can also get, you can secure a loan through some of your business assets, such as inventory, real estate, equipment. Once again, you don't have to sell it. You can leverage it. The Small Business Administration, they can back a loan for you. Now, of course, there's some paperwork involved in that. A lot of people, they're not just handing out money. And the Small Business Administration is not in the business of giving out money, by the way. They will back the loans of a bank, but they don't personally, the bank, SBA does not give out the money. If you have accounts receivables, some companies got people owing their money up the yin yang, and it's money you know you're going to get. We're not talking about bad debt you're about to write off, but sometimes the terms, a lot of people in government space do this. They may factor. They say, look, I got $50,000 out here on this contract, and I can't wait, man. I might not see that money for 90 days. So they go to a factoring company, and this factoring company, what they'll do, they'll go ahead and front them the money, and then they can use that money right away instead of waiting for those terms. Now, of course, you got to pay for it. One thing about money is not free, but sometimes you got to look at what your goals are. What's the goal? Why do I need this money? Why do I need it now? And sometimes you realize you need that money now, even if you have to pay a little bit more money for it. It all aligns with what your goals of your company and where you are at that particular time in the development of your business. And also, my last one, and like I said, there are other ways. And if you have a financial advisor, I think William says you can crowdsource funding. So there are different ways out here to get this money. But don't let funding be the reason you set on your dreams, because there are creative ways out here to get money. And the last one I'm going to talk about is venture capitalists. These folks, they're like, if you got an idea that's going to just explode and take off, and we call that those scale it and sell it model. But if you have like an idea, a lot of internet companies do this, where they go to a VC or venture capitalist, and they will front them like $200,000, $500,000, and they may do what we call an interest-only loan, where they may do like a 5-year term. At the end of the year, and then that 5-year term, the loan becomes due, and everybody, they made so much money. That's just a piece of cake. So anyway, folks, there are ways out here to make money. No, you don't have to sell your assets necessarily. You can leverage them if you have stocks. And I say this because I know many people that got into the stock market during the pandemic, like myself. And some made some pretty good money. But their businesses are still, they need some cash flow. So like any loan or any type of time you're leveraging your assets, just make sure, talk to somebody who can give you good advice. And there's always some risk. Like I said, we talked about the margin call on the stocks. You don't want to play around with your house if you're doing some kind of shady business. So you want to make sure you're talking to somebody who has experience in those areas. And anytime you're dealing with money or lending, there are some risk involved. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up the show for today. This is the Marketing Pulpit TV show. I'm Robert Gatewood, your host. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Let's talk about this supply chain thing. Now, as we speak, there's 250,000 containers of food stacked up at the docks due to delayed pickups from trucks. They're running out of space at the rail yards. And this has caused dozens of cargo ships to drop anchor outside the ports of California and New York. It's a problem. Matter of fact, the President Biden got involved. It's such a big problem. So he's made it one of his priorities. So you as a company, you as a business owner, have to be aware and manage supply chain. I've been talking about supply chain really since I've been a business developer. It didn't get a lot of traction because most people it just wasn't one of their priorities. I mean, small companies, we hate to say it, sometimes we can be a little short-sighted. We are following these shiny objects. We got to get our Facebook likes and our tweets and get our nice business cards and logos, but we're not looking down the road. And that's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just that sometimes you just got to go out and get this information. So what I'm going to talk about this supply chain management, which has probably been on very few people's radar until recently. They keep sending news about these chips out here in the harbor. What's going on? How does that affect me? Well, it might not affect you directly today, but it is going to affect your stakeholders. And your stakeholders that are in the supply chain, eventually your number is going to be called as well. And we talk about customers, clients, vendors, partners, investors, and so forth, government agencies, community. And even though your stakeholders might not be directly impacted, but one or more of their stakeholders might be impacted. Let's give you an example. Let's say you're selling spices. And the company that sells you spices, let's say paprika, oregano, thyme, they're doing fine. It's like, hey, things are good. So you're saying like, well, I have nothing to worry about. They got plenty of inventory. Let me fill up my spices racks. But the farm that grows the spices is experiencing a drought. It's just a matter of time before your business feels the impact. That's a good example of supply chain economics and how to manage it. So my overarching advice to you today is to, as with most things, marketing, don't just wait for things to happen. Be part of the process. Engage. Be proactive. And supply chain management is no different than most things marketing that I talk about. Folks, we just can't sit around and let stuff happen to us. I hate to pick on small companies. And I do it out of love because I'm one myself. But we do sometimes let stuff just happen and complain about it after. Well, we could have done something to prevent it, or at least to minimize it. So an example of things that people are doing something about it, you have companies like Walmart, Amazon, Home Depot, these big product movers, they're adjusting their schedules and committing resources to mitigate this backlog at the ports. They're putting their drivers on like 24-hour shifts because one of the problems is that they're not picking this food up, these products from the ports fast enough. So they're committing to opening up additional warehouse space and sending out more trucks and having more workers to unclog these docks. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Christmas is coming. The holidays are coming. Whatever holiday you celebrate, December, November, January is a big time. It's a spending season. And you don't want to be caught flat-footed. So let me give you some tips on what you can do to help your company to navigate this crisis of supply chain economics. We're going to call it supply chain management today. First thing I want you to do is stay abreast of what's happening. Dig deep. Be curious. Ask some questions. So what's going on? What's up with these ships? What's on those ships? There's probably some on those ships that I need. Well, it could be, but you're not going to know if you have your head in the sand. So stay current on the news and plan. That's the other thing I want you to do. Always have a plan. If you have a business plan, sometimes you have to do a SWOT analysis. Sometimes a SWOT analysis will uncover some of these shortcomings, of which stands for SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So a good SWOT analysis will sometimes reveal some of these problems before they happen. This may be a good time. Now, I used to be a buyer. I was a buyer for this company, Grand Union Supermarkets and Big Star stores and Colonial stores. And the thing that I learned during that period was to manage inventory. And they almost beat us with a whip to make sure inventory was low and your turn was high. In other words, you want to turn that inventory over as many times as possible. And the higher your turn, that was a good thing. And the lower your inventory, that got your points. Could get you a raise and a promotion. Well, I'm saying right now, I'm going to break the rules for a minute. You may want to go ahead and stock up on some inventory on your vital items. That's right. This is a good time to stock up on inventory. Now, if they're perishable items, don't go crazy with it. But things that have a long shelf life, go ahead and get you a few extra cases, a few extra bottles. Now, this may mean lower turn. That means your inventory, of course, is money. That money is sitting on the shelf. But this is not the time to be trying to have high turn and keep your inventory low. So if it's available now, go ahead and grab you something. I'm not saying hoard it, but you do want to make sure you do have adequate inventory. Another thing you can do, and if you're already doing it, it's a good time to revisit, is to shore up those relationships. We talk about, on this show several times, we talk about barriers to entry and what the big companies have. One of the advantages the big companies have over the small companies. And oftentimes it's relationships. So these supplier agreements that you have, you need to go back and revisit those. And if you don't have them, you may have to make some supplier agreements to make sure that you're at the top of the list, because that's who's going to get the inventory and the products faster. And heaven forbid, if there's some type of exclusive agreement, you could actually be really wiped off the map because you cannot get the product. So go back and review any type of agreements, relationships you have with suppliers, and make sure they're sound. And when things get tight, you want to let them know, say, look, I'm one of your best customers. You got to look out for me. You better put some aside for my company. Also, you may want to increase lead time on the products that you offer. Let's say right now you're selling a book and the printer is having problems with paper, or they can't get the workers in on time. What you might want to do on your website is to say, look, you order today, we're going to get you that book in 2 weeks versus the 1 week or the 3 to 5 days that it normally takes. So you have the power to control that, and people will accept it. Don't put yourself in a situation where it looks like you're providing poor service when you could have taken a proactive approach and said, look, we don't have it right now. We're gonna get it to you in a couple of weeks or a month. So play with that lead time. You have the power to do that. Lead time. Let's see, what else can you do? You might look at alternate ingredients. If you're selling something now there's a short supply, or it's not readily available, you might look at what is there an alternative part, an alternative supplier, an alternative ingredient. Now, if it's something like a core ingredient on like if it's gluten-free or something like that, you don't have to play with that. But sometimes it doesn't matter what supplier you're using. And if it's something like a restaurant where it's not chiseled in stone and it's not going to materially affect the end product, you may want to look at some type of alternatives to some of those products that you're having experiencing supply chain issues with. Now, here's one of my favorite too. Many of you, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say probably most of you out here who are selling product, retail, inventory, you probably have too many SKUs or SKUs, what we call stock keeping units. If you're selling like 20, 30, 40 products as part of a line extension, look at cutting back on some of those items. Look at your top 10. If you're selling 50, look at your top 10. If you're selling 10, look at your top 3 or 4. And some of these other items, they're just making life difficult for you. There may be a specialty item that somebody just has to have. It's only one person ordering it. As much as you may like that person, you may have to let it go. This is business, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about survival. Look at your product selection. You're probably stocking some items right now that's really not worth it, particularly now that we're experiencing some supply issues. Now, let's say if you got some bank. Now, the next item is for people that have some money. Use that might and engage what we call vertical integration. And that's what we're seeing right now with companies like McDonald's, Amazon, Home Depot, the big companies. And vertical integration is an arrangement in which the supply chain of a company is owned by that company. That's right. If the truckers is part of the supply chain and you can't get the food delivered because of the truckers, what do? You go by the trucking company. That's exactly right. If you can't get that spice, if you can't get that ingredient that goes into your Happy Meal, you go by the farm. That's vertical integration. And you don't have to be Amazon or McDonald's to engage in that. You can do that on a smaller scale. That's right. Let's say if I'm a web designer and I can't get web design company, I can't get my website delivered on time. And there's a company out here that's supplying web designers. I might go out here and buy that during school so I can have me a steady supply of web designers. So, I mean, that's a pretty big example too, but I'm saying this can be done in smaller scales because vertical integration, it lowers your costs. It improves the quality because you control it. You have those critical resources available when you need them. You have improved coordination. It can increase your market share. Your distribution channels are secured. And you can capitalize on opportunities that are created by this vacuum. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close by saying this. For every problem, you can take this to the bank. For every problem, there's opportunity. You can sit and moan and groan about the problem. But one of the flagship statements, one of the signatures of business ownership and business success is to find a problem and solve it. Find a need and fill it. So all you bright people out there that I've been talking to for the past 12 years, I want you to take this problem, this crisis, like you have all the others, and say, where can I jump in here and capitalize and make some money? And it's also, we have to condition ourselves to look beyond what's right in front of us. We can't just sit and let things happen. We have more power than we realize, but we have to use it. Now, the good thing about a business is that that's an opportunity that's available to all. I know some people don't have necessarily the mechanical skills to be a business owner, but everybody can do something to improve their economic lot in life. You can invest in stocks, you can become a partner in a business, you can buy a franchise. There's all kind of ways to take advantage of this vast opportunity out here. We just have to do it. Well, that wraps it up for today. So we'll be back next week live right here on the Marketing Pulpit TV show. I'm Robert Gatewood, your host. People don't understand marketing. You can't stop every time the money runs out. Do the right thing, do it at the right time, and you have to do it right. Enough talk. Let's get to work.